Okay, it's recording.
Beautiful turnout. Thank you so much, Mrs. Hamzadeh, and anyone else with the film members. They have worked day and night. They've been in touch with me at least day and night to try to organize this. Thank you so much, Mrs. Nanucheri and Mr. Nanucheri, for hosting the program. The shiur, first of all, was dedicated for Yitzchak ben Abraham, Mr. Philip Nanucheri's father, who was niftar a few months ago. And also we had in mind, I have to thank you, Mrs. Saidian. I was looking for you. You, Mrs. Hamzadeh, whenever does something, you also somewhere behind the scenes, I'm sure. And also we had in mind for Rabbi Yosef ben Yaakov. And last but not least, I'm sure everyone is somewhat affected by today's, and some people were wondering if we should cancel tonight, but it should be the other way. We should definitely get together, because what they want to do to us is what we say in the Tefillah from Tehillim, Sinat Hamas Seneuni. Sinat Hamas Seneuni, that they hate us, hatred of Hamas. That's what David HaMelech said. That means that the Hamas's sin'ah, their hatred, is exemplary. And what they want to do is to break us apart. Breaking apart means that we wanted to get together and we break apart. We don't get together. We get together. We are not getting here together to dance. We are getting here to understand how we could have a stronger family, a stronger bond in the family, which brings with it simcha. We are supposed to be happy. We are supposed to have simcha. It's hard to have a simcha within the tragedy that has happened. So, before I start, I would share this with you, that when I heard the news about the boys, just the beginning, over 2 weeks ago, it was a Thursday night. So Friday they started davening, and for Shabbat, I was about to go into Shabbat. I couldn't get myself to be happy. I couldn't. I mean, on Shabbat you're supposed to be happy. Bar minan, if chas v'shalom someone has a family member that was niftar or nifteret, and they sit Shiva after 120 years, Friday afternoon, it's Shabbat, as if you're not in the Shiva. They get dressed for Shabbat, they do not sit Shiva, they go to Shul, and they act normal. On the outside, they have to act, they are not supposed to cry anymore. How could you not cry if someone has lost a family member? So it's Shabbat, you're not supposed to. After Shabbat, you start again. But I couldn't. It is really hit hard, I couldn't be happy. So I go to Shul. After the Shul finishes for Arvit, as I'm walking out, I go to Adastor, I go to Rabbi Rebach, and I told him that, what do you do? And he understood immediately, because he had the same mood that I had. He said, I don't know what to tell you. I said, I can't. And we just did Kabbalat Shabbat, I was hardly singing. What do we do? Rabbi Dave Surani was there, and he said, have you heard the story that they had in the book that is written about Rabbi Freifeld Zatzal, Rabbi Shalom Freifeld? I said, no. He said that there's a story that his daughter asked him a question. It goes back maybe about 30 years ago. They had gone during the summer to bungalow colonies in Catskills for summer to have fun. This is a camp. And during those few weeks they were there, there was an old Jew who was a Holocaust survivor, who survived Auschwitz, who went through the whole hell of a life that everyone had gone through during those times. And he survived. And he married, he had children, and he had an older person, he was somewhere in the 80s. And everyone look at him, he has stories to tell you about Holocaust. So one day, he's just walking somewhere in the outside within the forest, he's walking and he wants to pass the street, no one is coming. He goes and there is a black driver, half drunk, runs over him and kills him in the street. So you could imagine what they felt. This guy survived Holocaust and now just gets killed passing the street in somewhere out of town. It's supposed to be countryside. So he said that everyone was devastated. So she went to her father, it was Friday afternoon before Shabbat, and she said, Abba, I can't go into Shabbat with Simcha. What am I supposed to do? What? How am I supposed to do this? So he said, Rabbi Freifeld said the following answer. He said, a Jew needs to have different compartments in his and her heart. A Jew's heart has different compartments. There's a compartment for avelut, for sadness, that we express our sorrow, we express pain, we shed tears over something that's happened that is such a tragic event. And there's another compartment that's a compartment of simcha, has nothing to do with this. If you're supposed to have a simcha, you close this compartment for Shabbat, the door to be open until after Mosai Shabbat. Instead, now you open the simcha compartment. And that was such a beautiful answer. That means we do not ignore the fact that we have faced such a tragedy. But everything has its own time. If you're supposed to put your kid into bed, your 3-year-old, your 5-year-old needs to hear a bedtime story and be happy. She or he doesn't know at all about and doesn't need to suffer for this. You could smile, you could say it's a funny joke with him or her to put the kid into sleep. So they don't deserve to suffer because we are having such a tragic event. So the same thing over here. We get here together to share together some techniques in order how is a Bait Yehudi, a wife, an Eshet Chayil wants to have her home to be more of a simcha, more of a home that you could improve the marriage. This is where we get together. So we have in mind for these people, mention the names, it should be for the Elui Neshama of Yaakov Naftali ben Rachel Devora, Gilad Michael ben Bat Yalim, Ayal ben Iris Seshura, Hashem inkom damam, and Hashem avenge the blood, and may our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael and all the soldiers, they should have the protection and shemir of the malachim that Kosh Baruch Hu sends over them. Amen. Okay, so we get together here to share together some techniques. How could the wife improve the marriage? So, first of all, I have a disclaimer to say that whatever we talk about, we are not talking about abusive or painful relationships. If there is abuse, physical abuse, chas v'shalom, mental abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, no one is supposed to suffer. If it's continued, the person needs to get help or get out of the relationship. So what we talk about, it doesn't mean that you need to suffer and continue to live with the suffering. No, this is not. That's a completely different thing that we could talk about. If someone has suffering, they definitely need to go and talk to someone and do get help. Don't just continue living under this circumstance. So some of these things that we talk about might not apply to such a case. If you know someone, just know this is not for them. This is for people who, like everyone else, might have ups and downs in their family, might get into argument. That's what a healthy family is. We argue. Two intelligent people are supposed to argue. They are entitled to have different opinions, but they're supposed to find a compromise. They're supposed to give in, give up, and understand that you give room for the other party to live in order to make a life which is a happy life for your children. That's how you could raise a family. So I have handouts. Whatever I'm going to tell you, I have in handouts. I'm going to give you a recap you could take home. I have also a second paper which is called the 10 Commandments of Things That You're Not Supposed to Do. And that is for afterwards, that you sit together, you have a chavruta learning, a discussion. You could go through those 10. I have also included some few cartoons in them, just for fun. Doesn't mean it had something to do with whatever I've written over there, I just found them. You could just also have a little laugh, but the idea is just to have somewhat of perspective, things that you need to avoid. So that's for afterwards. Whatever I say also right now, then later you can have it in the handout. So the first thing to know, I think this is one of the most important things I want to get out. And I want everyone to know and share with your friends. As a therapist, I see couples. I see couples in our community. So I do know what's happening. And this is my passion. I mainly work 95% with Persian Jews. That's my passion. What I do see applies to other communities as well, but within the Persian Jewish population, I think this is something that definitely needs to be said. And please take the message home and share with your friends. What does a husband need to see in order to feel good about himself? In order to feel that he's successful? In order to feel that he's doing a good job? So that's important to take note. Some of you might know, some of you might not know, not take it that serious. What a husband needs to know is the following. A happy wife means a happy life. A happy wife is a happy life. A sad wife, find a knife and commit suicide. Not that for her, just for yourself. And because it rhymes, I just said it. One knife is just suicide. If husband comes home He could have had a terrible day. He could have had many mistakes. He could have lost money. He could have been a failure in his business. Comes home, sees that his wife is happy. To him, that's a message. You're a good man. You're a successful man. You're doing a good job. But if it's the other way, he could have conquered Twin Towers. He could have sold $1 billion in business. He could have had employees who bow down to him. And he could be driving the best car and all the luxuries you could think of. Walks in home and sees a wife who is unhappy or gloomy or critical. That's enough to ruin his work. The message is that you're good for nothing because I'm not happy. That's the message he gets. So if you want to make a miserable life for him, make sure that when he comes home, you look truly what we call achmu. You look like very, very upset and not happy, and there's so many problems in life, and you're never ever happy with whatever he does. There's always something to complain about. It doesn't mean that you're going to be happy-go-lucky and start flipping around. No. But the message is that I generally feel okay and happy. There are issues. Kids make me go crazy. The sink was clogged up. They were breaking something. I got a ticket. There could be issues. But life is not a misery. And that message should not be conveyed. For a husband to feel good about himself, he needs to see that the wife is happy. Which means also, criticism could kill the relationship. We need to be careful. Criticizing husband. You could give feedback, you could talk, you could share what you feel, but criticizing. And most of the people I see, beside married people, single people, I would call the number one issue that everyone has. People who are going through dating, or they want to go for dating, or they can't date. Number one issue I would consider to be self-criticism. Self-criticism. Inside, we are killing ourselves. We are constantly beating ourselves up. Why? Because this is what we heard from our wonderful parents. That's what they do to themselves. They constantly put themselves down, or they put each other down. So what we heard since childhood is that, don't do this, why do you do that, why can't you be better, why can't you be like someone else, clean that up, you're so messy, you're such a lachte, you don't listen. We constantly hear so many of these things. So in the background of our mind, we have an MP3 player, which has the sound of mom, dad, older brother or sister, younger ones, classmates, teachers, especially if you went through the school in Iran, wonderful teachers that we had always praising us. He would walk in and would say, that was the teachers in Iran, especially if you went through the schooling system, you should know, it was horrible. I remember never ever hearing any word of encouragement or praise. So in the back of our mind, we have a whole tape being played that's criticizing us, that's constantly telling us things that are wrong with us. If you pay attention, you need to pay attention. If you pay attention to it, you're going to see. I had someone who said that, I don't criticize myself. I said, why don't you pay attention and try to write down? Write down. He accepted. He goes and comes back and said, you know what? I criticize myself for about 5 or 6 times during the day. I said, what did you say? He said, yeah, in the morning when I wanted to eat something, I heard that I was telling myself, oh, you're such a fat person. You're eating so much. I said, I started criticizing myself for eating. I said, tell me, what time you woke up? I said, 7:30. I said, I know that you want to wake up at 7, right? So what happened at 7 o'clock? Your alarm went off. What did you do? He said, I just pressed the snooze. I said, when you were pressing the snooze, what did you tell yourself? He had to think a little bit. So I don't remember. I said, I bet you did not tell yourself, you deserve to go to sleep, go back. I said, no, I think what I told myself was that that last night you were so stupid that you went to sleep late, you can't wake up. He criticized me. I said, that's a criticism. That's a criticism. So he said, if you don't do that, you're not going to accomplish anything in life. I said, that's a mistake. That we think the only way to accomplish is if you take a stick and you hit the donkey. The donkey is our body. our goof. If you have a neshama, the body needs encouragement. You see, the donkey would go in two ways. One is way that you stick, one way is that you would hold the carrot and it goes forward. Our body understands also positive feedback. You could find good things and say that you're doing a great job. Or this is better. The person who wakes up late said that, okay, what happened? I don't want to suffer. I went to sleep late, I was watching something, I was playing, I was just spazzing, I was spacing out. Okay, I want to go to sleep earlier tonight. You couldn't. Don't beat yourself up. What are you going to get? If someone thinks that I only could accomplish it through beating myself up, that person has a wrong tape in his brain. They need to erase that and put a new one. We need to change that. If it's repetitive, that means that it's really deep down. That MP3 player might have to be really erased.
No, the action is repetitive.
If actually, we have to see why is the action happening. A person in right mind does not want to suffer. The person doesn't want to suffer. If they are doing it repetitively, there is a reason. We need to find what the reason is. Number one reason that we all heard, I'm sure you have heard, the number one reason that we all heard from teachers and from parents was, "To tambali, you are lazy." That's the reason you go to sleep late. That's the reason you don't want to do that. You wouldn't wake up. Lazy. I see my clients, every one of them. I'm lazy.
They are lazy.
What? We are lazy. Couple of self-criticism. So we think that we are lazy. We found out there was a survey done by kids that were called lazy in the school, that 9 out of 10 they were not lazy. The ones who were not performing. We had few who had ADD. We had few who had depression. We had few who had anxiety. We had few whose parents, they did not have shalom bayit, so the kid couldn't bring himself or herself into performing well. There were few who had a lot of fear and they would get paralyzed. There were few that had learning disabilities. But if you go back maybe a few generations, or maybe just one generation, take all those 10 kids, they all have one symptom, lazy syndrome. You're all lazy. You need to just give them a little bit and this person start running. So we carry that image. Criticize. Beat them up. Set them straight. We might have that in the back of our mind. That needs to be stopped. Because someone who criticizes himself or herself will definitely criticize spouse and children. It's impossible. Even if they want to stop it, they might not say it verbally, but they would give a facial cue. Or a body language that I'm not interested in you, I disconnect. I move away. I don't show myself interested in you. I don't show myself that I would admire you. So that's important to know. Husbands are much more sensitive to criticism and rejection than what their wives think of them. They might think my husband is a macho, tough people, men are not like that, they don't care. No, they do care. The fact that we don't see is because they don't know how to express their emotions. They don't. They do not have that part of the brain developed. Between the left brain and right brain, in the middle, there is something called cingulate gyrus in the midbrain. And that part is responsible for connection, for switching action, for a number of things. One of the things is for communication and attachment. Believe it or not, the cingulate gyrus in ladies are bigger than men. So next time you could brag to your husband, I have a bigger brain than yours. At least the mid part. So what does it mean? It's the middle part. The middle part. It's bigger. That means that ladies do have billions of cells, brain cells more in that part. That's for communication. So that's why they could easily communicate. And that's why you see a lady who's upset about something, sees her friend, what do? They talk about it, they talk through the issue. Maybe for 2 hours, the issue is resolved. Or even if not resolved, I talked about it, I feel better. Men, they go dead. They have an issue, they come home, they want to go into a room and close the door and just sit down and rot in their place. What wife asks, talk to me. What's the matter? Say, he doesn't want to talk to me. To him, it doesn't make any sense. What do they accomplish? We're just talking about it. I get more sad, let me think it through. But that's how they deal with the issues. It's a different way of dealing with the issues. I would love to take questions, but maybe let us finish. If you could remember the question, I would love, but I'm afraid we have only half an hour. So let us finish, and at the end we're going to give 5 minutes of question and answer. And I would love to see if I could entertain all the questions. Let us see if I could, how much of it we could cover together. The wife would need. So first thing, you need to work on yourself being happy, whatever it takes. The husband needs to feel that he is respected and admired. More than love, what the husband needs is respect. When a husband feels respected, he feels loved. Respect and admired. What it means, everyone in the family could figure out, but it's something internal. It's an attitude that the wife in her heart looks at the husband and looks at him and says, in her mind, you're my hero. You're the man of my dreams. Because if you don't, he will not turn out to be that thing. But if you look up to him in that way, he would want to turn out to be someone who is the man of your dreams. He would want to make you happy and satisfied. He would want to fit in those shoes that you're hoping for him. Being cold, critical and miserable, all it does is make him feel a failure, and he would start to withdraw further. When he withdraws further, the wives usually become more upset, and she starts to more nudge and nag, and he withdraws further. At the beginning, she might start to jab and start stabbing in any way she wants, screaming, bothering, whatever she could do in order to get his attention. And he would become upset or withdraw further. What happens after a while, she starts feeling rejected, abandoned, neglected, and she starts also to withdraw and not getting touch with him, resent the process. They become disconnected, and what we have is two unfortunate people who are getting further and further away from each other. They do not know how to communicate. Remember that your husband is more sensitive to rejection than you could think about. If they feel the wife is not happy, they would want to spend less time at home. They want to be outside, because this is not somewhere that I feel as a winner. I do not feel strong. I don't feel that I'm someone who has been able to lead a life of success. They become aggressive and they become irritable. They start to act out. Ladies, usually, at the beginning, they start to think through what they want to say. But after a while, if they get hurt, which they have the right to feel hurt, all the right. I'm not blaming them, but they forget after a while that they still need to strategize. I mean, they need to think, how should I say what I want to say? When should I say it, what I want to say? Not every moment I could just dump all my pains. They need to strategize. They need to take time to see how could I mention in a soft way. There are a number of techniques. One of the famous techniques we have shared this together before is called I message. I message means you start the sentence with I, not you. Husband promises to be home at 6 p.m. He doesn't. It comes 6:30, 6:45, 7. Happens one time, twice, 3, 4. Few times it's happening. So the wife is getting sick and tired. So one way of dealing with it is that the husband comes home for the 5th time late. She goes that, you're always late. You lie. You're never going to come home early. You don't care about me. Pay attention that all these sentences started with you. The moment he hears the word you, what happens? The heart closes up and an iron gate goes up. Closes up. That's what we call defense mechanism. He becomes defensive. So you want to send a message to Prince Charming and all the gates are closed. All it bounces to the wall and falls down. He does not hear you. Only thing he hears is someone out there starting to attack me. And he's thinking to himself, how could I counterattack? How could I protect myself? What do I need to do? I have enough of this. What do I need all these problems for? You want to get the message inside. You just don't want to vent. You just don't want to attack. To get the message that you want the heart to stay open. In order for the heart to stay open, be careful not to make him defensive. So you start the sentence with I. That's the first thing to remember. Second is, what is it with the I that you want to say? You don't say, I think you're always late. I think... No. That's not. You start with I, and you continue with talking about I, about yourself. Don't talk about him. You talk about yourself. What do you talk about yourself? You know who I am? No, that's not the same. I, and you continue with feelings. I feel whatever. So for example, the husband comes home late. You sincerely say what you feel. You know, honey, I feel worried when you don't get home on time. I feel abandoned when I don't see my husband home on time. I feel neglected when I'm waiting for someone and they don't show up. I feel angry when someone promises me and they don't keep their promise. You can do it with them. Anyone who promises me, all the more so you. But you're talking about yourself and you're feeling, no one is allowed to come and tell you that, don't feel that way. No one can tell you that. I feel this way. And they usually understand that. The heart is open. You say, I feel. Why do they care? Because your feeling is a successometer for them. If your feeling is good, they feel good about themselves. So you're telling them, for example, you want to know something? You invested $1 million in one of the stocks. I want to tell you how the stock doing. How much is doing? I'm telling you, the stock is really going low because you're coming late. So you talk about your emotions. It's like you're telling them the investment you're making is on the verge of collapse, God forbid, or is losing out. So again, I message, you talk about feeling, and you try as much to talk about yourself and not the person. I feel this way. This is the feeling I have. This is how it comes to me. I don't think you mean that way, but this is how I want to let you know. This is how I feel. And after a while, when you start saying it, you give them time in order for it that you should go inside. And you have started the conversation. You say that, is there any way I could help you to get home earlier? Anything I'm doing that's causing you to come home late? You start and said, oh no, I'm so sorry, oh let me. So you start conversation after that. But this is how you start. But strategize. Don't just attack. Don't just vent. Because all you do is they call it emotional vomit. You're gonna vomit. But the other party is feeling connected to you, most of the time, no. So that was the first thing. It's about understanding and accepting that opposite gender, husband, a man is different. That's how they feel, that's how they react, and you would like to give them a good feeling that you are a hero, you're doing a great job, and if something is bothering us, we discuss that. And by the way, when husbands come home usually, most of the time they're hungry. And they say that if someone is hungry, especially if they're a man, don't try to negotiate with them. They come in, they don't look good, take your apple, you shove it into their mouth, you say that, eat that, finish? Okay, now I'm going to tell you, I feel feeding them is important because sometimes their mind somehow, I don't know, they're still researching that, but there's something connected from brain to stomach of the man that when the stomach says, I'm hungry, the brain goes kaput, doesn't work anymore. Already done. Finish with. Okay, next thing, the first one is I think this is the most important message I wanted to get out. If you take it home, that's enough. Many of issues could really be helped with this. I don't say that it's resolved, but many issues could be helped with this because I've been seeing this back and forth, day in, day out. Sometimes the wives do have a right to feel upset, but they need to find a way to communicate. I never share any information, anything. So anything I tell you, you think you know the person, you don't know because I'm changing many details. For example, the person is 20, I said you're 95 years old. Or so I know of a case that, for example, the husband is not doing his job that he's supposed to do. Let's say that he has promised, I'm going to take my wife out at least once a month. We're going to go and have a supper outside together to spend time. She would have a night out, and he's not doing it. He stays at work late. He comes home late, so she's feeling more and more neglected. She's feeling more and more like a depressed woman that my husband doesn't care about. That's how she feels. But how she shows it is by nagging, complaining, by never showing him a happy face. So he goes more and more into his own withdrawal. And it feeds, it's a vicious cycle, it feeds itself. He pulls back, she pulls back. So at one point she could start showing that there are points that she's happy about. He's paying the bills. He's not abusive. He's abandoning, true, in that level, but he has paid all the bills, he's paying for the mortgage. He says thank you at least when you cook him some food or take care of him. The other things he's doing. He's taking care of the kids. There are points that you could appreciate, showing the appreciation for those things. Definitely there are things that you could appreciate. Find them, hunt those, and say thank you so much. I truly appreciate. You're working hard and you're paying for all the expenses. I truly appreciate that. You are the man of my dreams. You're my hero. You show me the happy face. And you look for opportunity to say that I would like, if you could work it out, that what we promised together. I feel I'm really overwhelmed. I need a night out with you. Could we work it out? Say it in that way. Bring it up. If that doesn't work, then you need to escalate the matter, go further. But many times, if we approach it from that kind of perspective, I've seen people who respond to that. Acceptance and gratitude. 4 words. Acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, and appreciation. These 4 together goes to create a relationship that is safe, and the person who is in the other side of the relationship feels that I could continue this relationship. Acceptance means that I just saw, for example, boy and girl who is going on a date, and they are about to get married in a few months. So as before going to get married, she is coming and saying that there is something about him that I cannot accept. And it's a major thing. She cannot accept such a thing about him. And it's not something he could change. And I said, so what do you like to do about it? She says, I guess we'll work it out. I'm going to change him. I said, you can't change him. You can. You could change a diaper, but you cannot change him. He's not simply changes. It's not that easy. I change him. What is it? So acceptance means that if you have gone into a relationship, you have seen things about the person. If you have made a severe mistake, you need to talk to a marriage counselor, a rabbi to find out. But generally, the things that we consider to be, I cannot accept such thing about this person, are things that we had some clue, or maybe we decided subconsciously to let go. So if you could come into terms and accept them, accept them. Accept them. Look at it from a different perspective. For example, I heard from, as I have written down for you over here, the wife was going nuts over the fact that the husband takes his socks off and throws it in the middle of the room. And she said, please pick them up, you don't have to. And he never does it. He never did it. She is very meticulous. She sees something on the floor, she has a heart attack. It's hard for her to accept that. But came to a point that she heard that, listen, the fact that you come and you see the socks of your husband on the floor means that you're married. There are single girls who are waiting to get married, and they go and they open the door to their apartment and they see a very clean apartment. They would have loved to see someone's socks over there.
It's true.
Definitely after getting married. So there is a perspective into that. She comes home, she says, thanks God I'm married. I have a husband. Thanks God I have a family. That's a perspective to look at it. He doesn't change. It's not the end of the world. It's good if you could do that. But it's not the end of the world. There are things that we could look at from different perspectives. They call it reframing in psychology. In the CBT, they call it reframing. You reframe, you look at it from a different perspective. The very famous thing said that, I heard it from the first time I was in Baltimore. I went to one of the rabbi's home, one of my rebbeim. I wanted to speak to him at his home. So I opened the door, the rebbetzin, the wife, opens the door, and I walk into the house that they had a number of children, and I could not see the carpet. What I would see the Legos, toys on top of each other, so we had to really try to figure out how to walk. And she was so comfortable, she told me that, excuse the mess, it's a house blessed with children. It was beautiful. It's not like that. ببخشید خیلی عذر میخوام بچه کثیف کردن. عذر میخوام خواهش کنم. خاطر سرشون کنن. یعنی چه کردن؟ گوش نمیکنن. حالا ببخشید شما کجا David come. She easily opened the door and said that this house blessed with children. Excuse the mess. Easily, continue. You don't like it? خوش اومدید. She had an outlook that you look around. You go, there are families, Barminan, anyone who doesn't have Hashem should bless them, but there are families who would love to see their house messed up like this. The house is clean. They would love someone to come and turn it upside down. They're waiting for such a thing. You see their grandparents, when their grandchildren go to their home, they miss it. Say, let them just mess up everything. Let them make a mess. Because it reminds them of a time that they had little children at home. That's a reframing. Someone could look at it from a different perspective. It's what we could do to ourselves. Number 3. What time are we? How are we doing time?
9:46.
it's almost over, I'll say this two-part pass. You have the paper. I tried to write the notes in a way that is self-understood. I'm sure you enjoy them because I really spend a lot of time on this to try to make it very concise, and I've highlighted the important points.
Yeah,
Communication, pleasure. Communication. One thing I want you to know is that many people, I see that they have learned how to talk to their kids. They didn't know, it's a new language, they learned. Praise your children, don't criticize them, speak to them in a soft voice, try to understand them, show caring, compassion, sympathy, empathy. But once they come to their husband, they turn around, suddenly a monster comes out. Use the same strategy that you use for your kids. It doesn't mean your husband is a child. It means that we all have children inside us, that they love to be catered in a soft and calm way, in a compassionate way. Meaning that, be careful, the same way you praise your children, you need to praise your husband. Praise him for the thing he does. And do it generously. Minimize correction. Don't correct. Criticism, complaints. If you will be doing that, you're not going to be his wife, you're going to be his mother. Most probably, many men nowadays, they grew up hearing all these things. They don't need to hear that anymore. They're going to project an idea that I'm living with my own mother, and many of their own issues might come to the surface. You don't need to bring it.
Sorry, what about food?
What about food?
Food. اگه مثلا شوهرتون غذای پتنی میخوره، are you allowed to correct him or
Okay,
not?
good. So let me finish. Please remember the question. It's a good question. Okay. Make it a point to show interest and understanding when you're listening to, when he's talking. Show interest. Usually wives are good with it, but show interest, as if not to show that you're discussing. I don't care about what you're saying. Show interest when he's speaking. Last but not the least, and this is very important in all areas of life, but definitely for this, it's called self-care. Take care of yourself. Many people who I see that they have issues with, they feel they're depressed or they have anxiety, they're not getting enough sleep. They don't eat healthy food. They don't exercise. They have a lot of stress and they do not know how to take care of the stress. Learn some stress management skills. Your relationship with Hashem, have time for yourself. If you pray, if you say Tehillim, you daven, have some learning. Anything that's going to create that this time is for myself. I have the 10-15 minutes, I'm going to sit down and read a book. I read something that gives me pleasure. Take care of yourself. Don't abandon yourself. And the whole thing, I'm just for my children. No, if you just can be for your children, you're going to burn out. Your kids will not appreciate that. They not appreciate that. I always say a story which I get such a different reaction. I say a story that the mom had 5 kids and she did not have anything at home. She was very poor, no husband, 5 little children, orphans. And she tried to feed them. One day she comes home, there is nothing to feed them, and kids are hungry. They haven't eaten for a number of hours. Mommy, we're hungry. She says, I have nothing. She tries to look around all over. She can't find anything. She's also hungry. She's starving. But she looks, she can't find anything. She says, Mommy, we're hungry. So she goes from room to room. Suddenly goes one of the cabinets, she finds a cookie. One cookie. She picks up, oh, thanks God. And she's thinking to herself, 5 is not an even number, so it's not easy. How could I cut it into exactly 5 pieces? She couldn't fight over it. And as she's trying to do it, suddenly she feels that she's about to faint because she's so weak. She thinks for a moment, puts a cookie in her own mouth, and she starts eating it, the whole thing. As she's about to swallow the last piece, one of the little children comes behind her, starts pulling on her skirt. Mommy, what are you doing? She swallows, turns back, and looks at the child with love and said, Mommy's making sure that there is someone to always take care of you. I've said this in a number of places. You have young crowd, older crowd. They usually, the moment I said that she eats, they said, because they can't think, oh my goodness, oh, how could she do such a thing? It's such a selfish thing. Huh? No, it's self-care. There are times that we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves so our kids would have parents who are healthy and to take care of them. Because if you're miserable, they're going to feel miserable. So self-care, there is a list. Find the work for yourself to do. Relationship with Hashem, exercise, learning, growing emotionally, doing chesed outside could give you a good feeling, whatever it takes. Do the self-care because it is extremely important. And with that I finish and we go to questions.
The kids, they love it too. The kids, they love it.
Yes.
They always say, Mom, go out, go have fun.
The
Go
kids,
with your
you
dad."
would do one of the best favors to your kids by being a great role model. When you take care of yourself, they will learn to take care of themselves.
Many times my kids, they tell me, Mom, go with that vacation. You guys need it.
Yeah.
They love it. I say, I'm going to say, oh, Mom, they love
That's
it.
very good.
Kids
They feel
love
good.
it.
It gives them a feeling of satisfaction, and self-esteem comes from feeling that you're in a secure house.
And they're going to learn to be like this.
Absolutely, they learn from us. So you said that what about the husband?
Yeah,
That
so
one,
you're
that
patterning
that's
patterning food, and you don't want to correct it, but at the same time, you care about detail. Let's say they have cholesterol. You don't want to just, you know.
okay. So that is a loaded question because it has a number of aspects to look at. Where is he eating it? What am I feeding him? How is my own eating habits? What have I taught my children? What am I buying at home to have? There are a number of things to look at to see the parameters around that. I cannot just give an answer like that. The things that I know, eat